So welcome to another episode of Co-Founders. This is Alex Mont-ros, and we have Lisa Mont-ros. We have two amazing guests today, good friends of mine as well, Justin Sult and Nicole Mitha. Thank you for joining us. So we're going to get into it and talk a little bit about the dynamic. So this is the first time we've had a brother-sister kind of join us, which I was about to get into pre-show about the envy I have with your guys' dynamic. So I have two older brothers. One's a half brother, one's a full brother. And growing up, we just never, they were just crazy. They did their own thing, and we all just went our own ways. I remember working with a friend of mine that had his brother, and we're still good friends, out of Vegas. It was my first real estate venture. I got licensed in Vegas, and they started their company as brother and sister. And I remember looking back, and I was like, man, I envy having to have had a relationship like that, to where I could be in collaboration with my brother. Was something that it's really cool to see when it comes together and you see people doing it. So one, I envy what you guys have, because as a brother to my older brothers, I would have wished that we could have put something like that together. It just never came together. But with that said, introduce yourselves and kind of tell us what you do, and we'll go from there.
And thank you so much for inviting us on here. I think it's a great topic. I know you guys haven't done the brother and sister thing, but just families working together, and having the relationship that we have. We hear that from people a lot that meet us and find out that we're brother and sister. They're like, how have you guys not killed each other yet, everybody says that.
My sister and I used to chase each other around with knives.
Right.
So it's amazing that you can work together, because my experience with siblings is nothing like being able to collaborate.
Absolutely. And I do have another brother that I could never ever work with him either. So no, but it is really special, and I think one of the things that is such a benefit is the fact that we grew up together, and we moved around a few times as kids. We got to live overseas, and to have those shared experiences that kind of made a foundation for the way that we view the world, the way that we treat people, and kind of what our goals are in life. We share that path somewhat. So I think that's really helpful. Something that even spouses don't have that same thing either. So
yeah, it's pretty cool. Thanks.
And we mentioned this a little bit, but we've worked in several businesses. Right now, we work together in a co-working office, obviously, that you guys work out of as well, which we're very happy about. But before that, Justin's kind of the serial entrepreneur, and I'm sort of help him realize his visions, I think would be a way to say it. So, starting out, I guess we could say this. it was in the marijuana business. He was growing marijuana out of a grow house, and so he's like, awesome. I need someone to take care of. He's like,
I need somebody to take.
So I had,
the heat.
You stay at the house.
You stay at the house when SWAT comes. Is this hold on? Was this pre-legal?
It was legal.
Oh, it was legal.
It was medical.
Medically.
It was pre-recreational, but it was licensed medically in the state. It wasn't.
Be a good episode.
It wasn't
All right, good, man. That's good.
It was still a little dicier back then, though.
There were some gray areas, but it was all above board. Everybody knew.
Everybody knew.
Business licenses. Paying taxes.
Good. That's all that matters,
all
right?
They
get
their money. So let's go back to that really fast. So that was the first venture, right?
Yeah, that was pretty much the first
The one that you guys got into. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what did you do again within that? So you were, how was that structure? What did that look like?
That was
really just contract work. He was like, "Hey, I'll throw you some money if you go take care of my plants." Basically, can you drive down there and
really
and
like gardening, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, taking care of plants, trimming them, that type of thing. So it was a pretty simple, straightforward kind of business. And then I moved into the recreational side of the business, and that was much larger scale. So I've raised money we had a big industrial warehouse and ended up with like 25 employees. And Nicole came up and moved up to Bellingham, Ferndale, and she helped out there as well. So that was a huge undertaking. It was a big challenge, and I was really thankful to have her there for sure, because moving to a new place and hiring all these people, and I'm the youngest person in the building. It was it was a lot of pressure, and having the investors, and it was just, so to have her there, and she even lived with me for a little while up there, was awesome. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. And then what was next?
It was real estate then. You moved into real estate.
Yeah. Oh, construction first.
Oh gosh, we started a construction company first.
Started a general contracting company. So
right.
I feel like, can we talk? I want to talk to you with this eye, just one eye.
Yeah.
Can I just have one eye like this? And I just look at your one eye as we're talking. Like,
yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. So
go ahead.
So we started a general contracting company.
Okay.
So I partnered up with one of my good friends' dads, who was been in the construction industry his whole life, and he left the company he was at, and we teamed up, and Nicole came along for the ride once again, and he ended up as we were soliciting for work for our first jobs, he ended up basically getting a job offer from a larger development company. And so they ended up just buying the company, and we kind of went our separate ways. And that was when I started to focus full-time on real estate. And so, again, Nicole, she in between each one of these, she takes a little time off.
Yeah.
Where she goes somewhere else. She's like, I'm done with, do something else with my life. Every time. And then I call her up and I'm like, hey, let me talk to you about something.
Yeah.
You want to go have lunch? And so, yeah, she joined me there as well. And, we did that for a couple of years. And just about a year ago, split off from that. And again, she had left. She left before that ended, and then I called her up at the beginning of this year and took her out to that building on 116th, and it was like still totally abandoned and overgrown, and we couldn't even go inside, I think, because they were doing some kind of treatment with paint or something, so it was like toxic inside, so couldn't even go inside, and I just kind of laid out for her, what the plan was, what the goal was, and when I finished talking, I said, "So,
yeah,
you coming?" And yeah, so it's been great. I mean, awesome. We've been successful so far, and yeah,
we've learned a lot along the way about working with each other. It definitely was not as smooth the first few times.
Yeah, that's the key thing. I mean, there were definitely. We can paint. It kind of seems like, okay, it's just been great the whole time. But yeah, when we first started working together, I think it's tough to remember, but I almost feel like it was more out of necessity than really like a desire to work together. It was, she had recently moved back from New York, and I really needed the help. I didn't, who else to turn to. And then it's just sort of grown, because I think, like I said, I mean, jokingly, she took time off and stuff, but really, I think that we did have issues that came up between us, and now I think we're at a point where we're just so comfortable together. We know each other so well in those kinds of professional environments, because we've been through different industries, different business partners, different and all the different challenges that come along with that, and she's the one person that I know I can always count on and trust, which is super important. Yeah.
What have been your biggest challenges of working with each other? I mean, I know siblings are very different. We see our kids do it, and siblings are different than other relationships, because you can hate each other one minute and be pummeling each other, and then 10 seconds later you're like, hey, let's go get ice cream, and you're like, cool, let's go, and both of you have black eyes. That's siblings, right? It's a very different relationship. Yeah. So I mean, we've heard a ton of challenges that people have had being married and how they've overcome that. So talk to me about you said you had issues. Yeah. What kind of issues came up for you guys?
You don't need to go.
They're both like, oh, here, let me tell you.
No, I mean, I think the biggest ones, I think there were a couple of things. I think they've stemmed from communication and maturity. Because when we started working together, how old were you? Were you 21 even?
21, yeah.
He was 21,
yeah, I was 20.
running the first businesses. And I was still in my mid-20s at that point. And so there's just a lot we had to learn about, like, navigating in the adult world and interacting with each other as adults. We'd, grown up until I left for college, and then been apart for like 8 years. And then we kind of had to get reacquainted with each other.
Yeah.
And because you're very different as an adult than you are as an adolescent or a child.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
I know some people who aren't, but hopefully.
Yeah, no, that's true. I didn't think about that, actually, that we were living together. I was like 13. And then when we started working together again, I was 21. So it was like, that was, we did need to get to know each other as adults, Yeah.
And I think, part of the maturity thing is we've really learned to not take business stuff personally. I think in the beginning we took things a little more personally when it was
for sure
really just about what's best for the business and stuff and how we do things.
Yeah.
And then communication on top of that, how do we,
Yeah, it's really the communication thing is just, I mean, this any relationship with any other person, whoever it is, I mean, just the nuances of, what's going to push somebody's buttons or, and how to, like, if there's something that's uncomfortable to talk about, how to approach that subject with that person. So that's something that we've really developed that, we would get in, some heated exchanges back in the day. But, yeah, I think it's also, we've gotten more comfortable with understanding each other, just our roles in the business and what our strengths and weaknesses are, which I think is huge. If you don't, accept like somebody else's, whether it's their shortcomings or their strengths, I think it's going to cause problems. So,
how I know you guys are close to your parents. What do your parents think about this? How you guys have gone, through your journey together?
What do they think about it?
I think they love it.
I think.
Yeah, I think they're super happy that we have a really tight bond and have been successful together and stuff. I think they're very, very proud of.
Yeah.
Do they ever give advice or try to, or do you guys ever sit down with them and say together within a business venture discussion or whatever and get advice from your parents?
I feel like they're supportive, but we kind of purposely try to keep it a little bit more separated that way. It's kind of nice, when we go to family stuff, we can kind of turn it off and tell them we don't want to just, if the whole family were in on everything, then I just, what else would we talk about?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I mean, we do have, like, we've got a close relationship with each other, but also with our parents. Like, we're really, really tight. We do spend a lot of time together as a family. So, and I think, we all just kind of, we separate, the business and sort of family time. Like, even like my dad, he doesn't, talk about business a lot when it's, we're all getting together for dinner or something like that. So I think it's a good way to do it, to have that separation. I mean, you guys probably might be even a little bit different for you because you're always together. We at least get some time, right?
I got the side eye.
We'll take a vacation.
Yeah.
We're not
Jess and I are
always
going to New York.
together.
We're going to watch ADS fight.
Yeah.
Actually, you and Justin are going to Las Vegas to watch Canelo.
What the heck? Did you know
And
that?
Justin knows.
Oh, yeah, I did.
We are?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your birthday present.
Oh, cool.
All right.
I got you a birthday present, and I'm sending you and Justin
All
away.
right, that's nice, dude. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good
Everybody
one.
wins.
We all win.
I think it's the best birthday present you've ever gotten.
Awesome.
Happy
Thank you.
birthday.
I love you. All right. That was an awkward kiss.
No, I'm probably
Now we're going to Vegas to watch Canelo.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. All right.
is.
do we wrap it up right now? Are we done?
And on a high note?
I guess we're done.
Yeah.
That was a more fun way to tell you about your birthday present.
That actually was, but October 4th could have been a good way too.
I know, but it's okay. I told
okay,
you today
we got
because
Justin.
Justin's here. So anyway.
Wow. All right, very cool.
So yeah, you guys are going.
Okay, back to the show. No, that's so when you talk, I think we talked about like somewhat to like self-awareness.
Self-awareness, yeah.
What do you think has been the strength that you kind of rely on her for to get whatever you need done, and vice versa? What do you see that maybe he needs? Because I feel like you got to be like his crutch to like get around.
Pretty much. Yeah, I think a lot of I get questions from people that when they ask me, they say like, how do you like get so much done? Because they assume that it's like just me, you know, when I tell them about the businesses that we're involved in. And they're always like, man, how do you have time for all that stuff? How are you? I mean, do you ever sleep? And it's like, well, there is somebody else who does some stuff too. So, yeah, I think, you know, I get to focus on what I'm really good at, which is probably sales is really my big strength. So to keep going out and creating more opportunities and trying to kind of focus on growth. Mm-hmm. And then Nicole really is able to kind of take care of all the stuff that it needs figuring out because it's a new business, you know, where it's always something new. And she can she can do just about anything. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, she's the secret weapon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like Justin's definitely he's the ideas guy, and you know, don't get me wrong, he's no slouch. Well, he's no slouch when it comes to like actually like doing stuff too, and sometimes, you know, tasks tend to divide. Like he said, he's more extroverted than I am, so he's you know, sales comes much more easy to him. Like I said, being the face of stuff. He also does more number stuff, that sort of thing, like actual business organizational things. He has a better mind for that. I have a little bit more of a creative kind of take on stuff. But yeah, I feel like I'm able to, because I know him really well too, I'm able to kind of just fill in the blanks, if that makes sense. Like whatever he doesn't have time for, I can pretty much slot in and figure out how to get it done.
At this point, she probably already knows, like, if I'm going to do something, like what I'm not going to do or what I'm not going to do right. So. She's just kind of like, probably doesn't even say anything anymore. I don't even notice, you know? So, yeah.
Do you feel like your relationship as siblings has strengthened because you've worked together?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, we're much closer.
Yeah,
now.
It's just you get to know somebody in a different way. You know, it's one thing when you're at home and you're hanging out, but to really like to be focused on a task together and have to collaborate and problem solve and deal with any issues that come up. I mean, it's you just get to know somebody in a different way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've gotten to know you in a different way.
But I think it's different because, like,
the good way.
It's different. Like, I think
it is different.
In a marriage, and I think it was actually even at church on Sunday, our pastor said to everybody, he's like, if you're dating, just know that the person you're dating is not who you're going to marry, because everybody's on their best behavior when they're dating. And he said it much more eloquently than that, but that was the gist of what he said. Whereas I think that's in a marriage, even starting a business together.
I wasn't that way, though.
You haven't, but everybody is. Everybody is. Everybody is. I mean, it's just the thing. But,
go ahead.
But I think in a marriage, you're still learning each other as you get married, unless you've dated for 15 years up to that point, right? But, like, I mean, we got married after dating for not too long of a time, and so, I mean, our time together has been short. We're still learning things about each other.
Right.
Whereas with siblings, like, you know everything. Like, I mean, and if you still
knows
like...
where all the bodies are buried.
She does. Like, you've been through... You're not on your best behavior around your siblings. You're probably on your worst.
Right.
Like, if I take into... Like, if I look at our kids and I look at... You know, I mean, you feel more comfortable. Yeah. We just talked about this last night, actually. Yeah. You feel more comfortable around the people that are kind of, like, stuck to you.
Yeah.
Like your siblings
choice.
can't. Right.
Yeah.
Like it's just they're stuck to you. So it's like you have that grace period or a little bit of grace that's been given.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably different, and it's interesting to hear that you've gotten closer.
Yeah. No,
Through
absolutely.
business.
And I think that kind of coming back to what I was saying about having that foundation of growing up together, and part of that also is like we did, we probably did all the nasty stuff we could do to each other. We did it when we were like little kids, right? So it's all out of the way, right? It's all out in the open. It's already been done. She's already made me eat all kinds of things that I shouldn't have eaten. And
dog food, cat food, cut each other's hair.
Yeah, drinking soap and all kinds of stuff. But
just laughing at you,
just
while you're
just knowing
suffering.
the whole time. Yeah,
but that contributes to the trust and then the comfort level too. So I know that I can make him do that. So.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, and it's funny having grown up together and sharing DNA and stuff, because there are definitely certain ways that our brains work in the exact same way, and points of reference we have that we can just communicate in a shorthand that I can't even communicate that way with my husband, because they're just, you can say a snippet of a song lyric that no one would know what it is, but he knows exactly what I'm saying when I say that to him. And,
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah. And definitely, I mean, references also to experiences that we've had and people we've met and all that stuff. That definitely, I didn't think about that, but that's a big deal too. Yeah.
Do you think, regardless of where you guys will end up business-wise, it sounds like you'll probably be together, even if it's not by choice. Nicole just keeps getting drug along into whatever happens.
No, I mean, it's very beneficial for me too. It's not like I'm kicking and screaming into this.
Yeah, and she's going to move down to Arizona in like a month, right?
Yeah.
It's probably when you're going
Really?
to. Yeah.
So it's going to change the dynamic again, because I'm still working with Justin, but it's going to be long distance.
What are you doing
now,
there?
So
Yeah.
What are you going to be doing in Arizona?
Living in a way cheaper house.
Yeah.
Yeah, her in-laws live down there too, so
Okay.
They want to be close to their family for a little while.
We've thought about Arizona.
Arizona's like the place everybody from Seattle goes.
Yeah, a lot of people go down there. So
Yeah.
Close.
Everybody from
Ocean
Montana
is.
comes out to Seattle, and everybody from Seattle goes to Arizona.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of
funny.
this
A little
circle.
triangle. Yeah. Yeah, so we'll we'll try to deal with the separation anxiety.
Yeah.
It'll be fine, but but no, we're gonna continue to work together, and then I think, to your point, I mean, if whatever happens, wherever we end up doing, I'm sure we'll stay somewhat involved in each other's lives in a professional capacity, even if it's not as direct as it is now. Because, it's our relationship is at the point where it's like I really, I value her opinion and, want to get her perspective on things a lot of times. So.
Yeah, my
I think
feeling
so.
is that I'd rather work with him than pretty much anyone else. So I kind of want to do whatever I can to keep that going.
That's cool.
Keep the train going.
I like it.
So kind of as we've mentioned too, like our hopes is that our kids would do something together. We've given them lots of ideas and encouraged it. What advice would you give to them as siblings? Like,
Yeah.
What advice would?
That's a good.
For Lil and Winston?
well,
Yeah.
I mean, they might be a little too
This
young.
optimizer segment is specifically for our kids.
Just our kids.
Just
what
our
would
kids.
you tell them? Because they may listen to you, they won't listen to us. No, I mean, I guess what would be something that you wish you would have known? This isn't necessarily an optimizer tip either. Just looking back at the very beginning and kind of how you guys started working together. What do you wish you would have done differently? Like, what advice would you give for someone starting out?
I would probably say I think the separation of the personal and the business is probably the thing that we struggled with the most, and that is the most important. Because we really, I mean, yeah, we definitely we had some some fights that were fights at work, and then we saw each other later, and it just carried over, and then into bled over into family stuff, and and sometimes I think there were some times too where it was like we're even talking to our parents about it, separately. So that separation, I think, would be that's the number one thing that and it's hard to just do it. You really have to kind of, I think, develop that ability.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Are there ever, with that in mind, have you ever put like hard rules down, like firewalls between you and the business, or your guys' relationship in the business, to be like, hey, these are the hard rules. 1 is we can't, 2 is we can, 3 is whatever. Have you guys ever done anything like that? Like
I
structure?
don't think we have.
Unwritten rules kind of thing.
Unwritten rules. I think we kind of have an understanding that like if she doesn't, because we work flexible hours,
sure.
and all so. One thing that I think we kind of have an understanding is like if she isn't working, to just like she doesn't have to pick up my phone calls. Like just don't pick up, and I get it. I'm not gonna keep bugging you and stuff. That's probably sort of an unofficial one we've got now.
Mm-hmm.
I think, just to come back to your thing about advice, I think one big thing too is that we're not in competition with each other, which is probably something that a lot of siblings that holds them back from that. Mm-hmm. Is like if I was hypothetically doing something with my brother, for example, like the notion that we would not compete. We'd rip each other's throats out.
We would,
Right, and Nicole and I just, we do have a lot of similarities because we're siblings, but we're also super different people. Like really different, so we accept that we don't have to do the same thing or be the same person, or, there's times when she's the one in the spotlight and it's not my thing. Mm-hmm. And that's great. That's great. We support each other. So I think competition is.
Yeah, I think we're really lucky that we have we both have competitive and ambitious drive, but as a team rather than against
it. Yeah, it's
each
unified.
other. Yeah, you have to have a common goal versus
you can definitely see. I look at our kids and I'm like, God.
I know, I'm like, maybe they shouldn't be in business together.
Actually kill them. They're very competitive against each other.
They're competitive against everything.
Yeah. That's true.
Well,
that's actually good. That's good advice because I think that gets overlooked.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yep.
And I can see how that. I even thinking like from a sibling perspective, but then even think about like a partnership that you go into business with somebody.
Right. Any kind of
you
business
almost
partner.
have that same dynamic.
Yeah.
Where who's going to get the light, who's going to get the spotlight on things.
I think we've even seen that a little bit in ours is kind of, and I don't think it's conscious. It's just sometimes, it's being okay to take a back seat.
Yeah.
Knowing that it's not about me,
Yeah.
it's not about him, it's about Moncourt, it's about our company and us together. It
Right.
doesn't matter who's standing up there. But I think naturally, and we're both really competitive people, and it might be where all the kids get it. Board games at our house are not fun. Like, they're just not.
It's a disaster.
It's usually somebody slams down game pieces and
mad.
storms away, and there's fights over the rules because somebody's cheating or not. And it's our house is we're all very competitive.
We try,
but
we try. Like we do
We
try.
do.
We sit down. We get family night. It's game
really
night,
fun till-
and it really starts. And then 5 minutes in, we're like.
Didn't work. Try again
Maybe next
week.
time, yeah.
Maybe next time we'll.
But it also, it's just the dynamics of our family. Like we have some funny stories that we can talk about now. People being ridiculous, ridiculous when it comes to their competitive nature, and it's not a bad thing. It's just it's not
kids.
fun in the moment. But I think we naturally are competitive, and so that's actually good advice for us too. I think is remembering that it doesn't matter who's on stage or who's on the commercial or who's being named. It's all about Moncourt. It doesn't matter who the individual person is.
Yeah. That's why I put her in the front. I do. I've told her many times. And you almost have to come to that conclusion depending on how you're trying to build a business, right? Where who's going to be the front person?
Yeah.
She is a better front person than I am. Yeah. And I'm like, hey, be the front person. Yet she doesn't want to be the front person. I'm like...
I'm more of you be the ideas guy out there, and I'll be behind the scenes picking up the pieces.
I can be the ideas guy.
I'll get things
all
in
day
place.
because that's what we've fallen into. But it is an interesting. thing you have to think through, especially as you come together in business. It's like, because that can cause friction that you don't necessarily need, and nor does it move the business forward.
Yep. Because competition goes until somebody loses.
I know,
right? And that's true. That's
very profound, Justin.
It is.
I like you can keep it. Yeah, you can use that. Yeah.
Perfect. I don't even think we need an optimizer tip. I know. I mean, that was
so really quick. We're gonna do a quick optimizer segment. Take 30 seconds, a minute, whatever it is. So with your guys', we have already covered quite a few things, and you may rehash some of it, but what would be the advice you'd give to somebody looking to go in business together with their brother, sister, or family member, for that matter, and so that they can actually come out the other side unscathed, alive?
Yeah. So specifically, like for us working together.
Yeah, or just think of if somebody's listening right now and they're like, "Gosh, I just got into business with my sister, brother, whatever." You guys have been doing this for a while now. Yeah, I mean, so you actually have worked through a lot of things.
Yeah. That
maybe somebody today is starting to figure out, like, oh, I never thought about that, or this.
Yeah. I think what I would say is start out with real clarity around roles, because that's how you're going to avoid that. You know, if you're going into business with somebody, like you're starting a business, it's, you know, you have an idea, it's exciting, you get passionate about it, and if you're doing it with somebody else, maybe you both, you know, you talk about the idea together, and then as you start to actually move into like practicality, like mechanically, what are we actually doing? I think it's really easy for both people to try to be the same, you know, same person going forward, because you started out, you both had an idea, so maybe both want to keep having the ideas, you know, going forward. And so I think just real clarity around, I mean, from an operational perspective, what do you guys actually do? And it really should be different, you know. If you both wrote down on a piece of paper and didn't tell the other one, you know, like what you saw yourself as, that's probably, and it's the same thing, that's probably an issue. Yeah.
It's a good exercise for people to do, actually. I think.
You can keep that too.
Full of this today.
Slanging all day, like pizzas, dude, like pancakes. Slinging them out.
How did we get by without Justin?
Jeez, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up.
Okay.
Lisa,
awesome.
you are
I'm the
closer.
rapper. The rapper. Oh my gosh, what if I wrote a rap to close it?
You should.
Just a freestyle.
Freestyle right now.
Oh, I can't freestyle. We talked about improv before. I can't do it.
Come on.
Got a beat
Look,
in the
we
back.
got a beat in the back. Come on.
Anyway, thank you guys. I got to practice. I can't just whip that out. I'm not like Justin. I'm not like, I can't, I just can't do that. Maybe Justin could close us out.
I don't think so. I'm not
okay. But thank you guys for being here. Like, we've known you for a long time and on a personal level too. So it's nice to kind of find out about business. It's always interesting to me to hear people's stories. Like, you've been to my house and I didn't know you started a marijuana medical life.
Probably good that it's years later you found out.
Yeah, right? Because you may not have been invited back to my house.
That's why you can't tell people up front. They gotta get to know you. Figure out if they're cool with it.
You just told our whole audience.
Yeah, well,
it is what it is.
So here we go.
It's all legal.
No, it's all.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us at this episode, and we look forward to seeing you at our next episode of Co-Founders.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Well, that was fun.
Yeah, that was a cool one. And you guys really are going to Canelo.
That's cool.
That'd be cool if you weren't.
And by the way, you guys
I wasn't sure if that was actually like the first time you told him.
It was. I know Justin's like, am I supposed to know? Justin knew because I had to make sure he could go.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's more fun for you to go with a boxing fan than me. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I'm fun too. Somebody has to watch our kids.
Yeah. No,
Nicole, what do you do in November? No. We'll bring them to Arizona and we'll head them off to Vegas.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
Cool.
I love that. Yeah, and we
Thanks.
haven't had this specifically. It's cool to
It's
have
different.
you talk, because you're still talking about working on a business with somebody in your family, but it's not about the couple relationship.
Yeah, and I actually didn't even think about it till we sat down with you guys. Like, the nastiness of a relationship with siblings is always there.
Yeah.
With a marriage, like, and I don't want to call it nastiness, but like, but some of it, I mean, that comes later with the marriage. Like, you start out with the, it's a different.
Oh, yeah, it's like the opposite.
Yeah, it's almost a weird inversion.
It's the opposite of
beating each other down. And then later you're great.
You're cool, yeah.
And then with a marriage, it's the opposite, right?
It's the opposite.
You start out super nice, and then
you beat each other down.
We just watched a thing last night on ID Network of this guy that killed his wife, and that's kind of like a thing on ID Network, right? And I'm like, how do you it blows my mind how you can like say your vows, say you love somebody, and then murder them years later. Like, that's crazy to me.
That is nuts to think through that.
It is crazy to me, and like and that's the
like
answer.
That's what you get. You get to that point, and with your brother or sister, like
you like I kid you not when I say my sister and I chased each other around the house with knives.
Yeah, same thing.
Like we had a room that had 2 doors, and we would run in a circle, and there was a bathroom off the side, and like if you were in front, and you never knew who was going to grab the knife, but after that you just ran, but you had to get far enough in front to break off, like if I caught my sister, was I going to like stab her? No.
Yeah. Well, that was Mark. He used to chase me with a knife around my pool, and I would.
You guys didn't do that?
You guys didn't do that?
Okay.
Yeah. But what, like
knife chasing? No, we didn't.
I think you were gone when the knives came out. You left for college.
Was it your brother? Or was it my boy? Yeah.
It's different.
But like, what do you like? But to think back, I'm like, well, what are you gonna do? Dude? You were literally gonna stab me in the backyard.
Yeah.
Right? Like you really?
Yeah. It is crazy. I've got some scars.
Yeah.
Not from me though.
Not from you.
From trying to grab the knife.
From yeah. From trying to
Oh, yours went way further than mine.
Yeah,
We broke
Well, he threw him. He would throw him then when he couldn't, and then I couldn't, and then it was dodging, but it was it was on the opposite end, so I had enough time. And he wasn't that athletic, so
yeah.
Fortunately, he couldn't throw it.
He didn't have the technique down. That's good.
Didn't have it.
Yeah.
I know about the feed. My sister fed me dog food, so and she cut my hair the same day. So she asked me to get her Lucky Charms one day. So I did, but the dry cat food is the same shape as Lucky Charms. So it was like half cat food, half Lucky Charms.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
She still talks about. She fed me dog food, like wet dog food. Her and my cousin held me down and fed me. Yes.
And they held you down.
Yes. So I don't think the Lucky Charms is so bad. I don't know why that one got the appalling
Yeah.
I never held you down, but I did feed you stuff. You just did what I said.
Yeah. I had a blind obedience when I was like really young. She put a bunch of sand in between 2 dry leaves and told me it was a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I took a bite out of it.
You were stupid.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
There's a leaf hanging out. It doesn't matter. That's awesome.
Yeah.
The spider crawls out. It's fine. Just eat it.